Hello everyone, you're all welcome to Salia Study Hall. So if you can recall, our last lesson was on the scope of finance, more like the introduction to finance. So today we'll be looking at financial market. Now, before we get into it, we need to know what objective we should attain at the end of this video. At the end of this video, you should be able to define what a financial market is. You should know like the different levels that the financial market operates. We should know the types of financial markets and their characteristics, and also we should know the different instruments that are used in these types of financial markets. So with that, let's dive into the video. Have you ever wondered where businesses get money to grow, or where the government gets money, to carry out its activity? Well, the answer lies in financial market. Before diving into financial market, we know that when we mention the word market, what do most people think about? They think that it's a place where buyers and sellers meet. But in reality, a market is where demand meets supply, and it could be physical or it could be online. And with that, we have different types of markets. We have the commodity market where they buy goods, where you buy and sell goods, and then we have the financial market, which is our focus, where it is a market where instruments, financial instruments are being bought and sold. Things like bonds, things like shares, things like commercial papers, right? This is the market where we buy and sell all of this. Okay, so with that, we have to know that financial market operates on two levels. That is, it could be a primary market or it could be a secondary market. What does a primary market mean? It means that that is a market where new securities are being bought and sold, right? We call it the primary market. And then now the secondary market is a market where second-handed security, like maybe for instance, I was a shareholder in a company and now I don't want to be a shareholder again, right? I want to give out my shares. So at that level, it is at the secondary level because it is already a share that has been issued before. It's not a new share, it's an existing security. So it is operating at the secondary level. Now, let's dive now to the importance or the functions of the financial market. What are the functions of financial market? First, it enables investors to invest because you can have money, and thanks to the financial market, you know where to invest that money in. It also enables companies to get capital, right? You can sell your securities in the financial market, you get more capital for your business. So it helps the company to get more funds. Another importance of financial market is that it helps investors to diversify their investment. What does that mean? It means that you don't only invest in one thing. You can have different opportunities in the financial market where you can put in your money and diversify your investment, meaning that you have different investments in different places. Another importance is that it makes tradable assets to be more liquid, right? At least you can easily sell or you can easily buy assets in the financial market. That's another importance. Another importance about of the financial market, it mobilizes savings. Like people save their money, and that is why we say in the financial market, people who have surplus funds, give it out to those who need the surplus funds. So like somebody has the money is not using, you can give it out to those who need the money in the financial market. So these are some of the importance of the financial market. Next, we're going to be looking at the types of financial market. The types of financial market we have. We have two types. We have the money market and the capital market. Now let's look at what the money market is. The money market, this is a market where securities are exchanged for short term, and these securities are close substitute to money. They are kind of closer to money. Money can easily be exchanged. So with the money market, you exchange short term securities, things like treasury bills, things like commercial papers. That's what we trade in the money market. And what are the characteristics of this market? It is highly liquidable, right? Meaning that you can easily do the exchange. You can exchange it very fast. So that's what it means by being highly liquidable. And then it deals with things like treasury bills, commercial papers, certificate of deposit. Those are the things that the money market deals with. And another characteristic about it, there's no fixed place, right? You can carry out your transactions anywhere, even online. There is no fixed place where these transactions can take, can happen. There is no fixed place. And then also, it's also a market for short-term lending and borrowing. So these are some of the features of the money market. Okay, so the next we'll be looking at are the members of the institutions that make up this market. What are those that make up this market? We have commercial banks. We have commercial banks that are very common. These are banks that or financial institutions that accept deposit, grant out loans, act as agent of payment. So these are one of the members of the money market. Another member we have is a discounting house. They are in charge of discounting bills of exchange. A business person may issue you a bill of exchange, and maybe you want to cash the money before the maturity. What do? You go to a discounting house, so even to the commercial bank for it to be discounted. And then we also have accepting houses. These are financial institutions that guarantee the payment of bills of exchange, right? They assure you that the bill of exchange will be paid. So these are some of the members of the money market. And what are the functions of the money market? Now, they provide short-term capital to businesses. That is one of the functions. If you need capital for a short period of time, it is being provided by, you can get it through the money market. And then it maintains a monetary balance between, short-term demand, right, and supply of short-term assets. And then it also facilitates the growth of trade. When they discount bills of exchange, it makes trade, to grow because people can rely on bill of exchange, to do their transactions. And then what are the money market instruments? We have treasury bills, we have certificate of deposit, we have bills of exchange, we have commercial papers, we have bank overdrafts, and then also we have short-term loans. So these are some of the instruments that that we use or we deal with in the money market. The next we have is the capital market. Now, like we already mentioned, like the money market for short term, the capital market deals with long term, securities, agent of long term securities, agent of long term securities like bonds, shares, debentures. This is what we deal with the capital market. So capital market provides funds. This is some of the function, just like the money market we already mentioned. So they are similar. They provide funds, but now for a long term. It's not for a short term, for a long term. So it helps now, to make use of the surplus, like the surplus unit, provide money to the deficit unit for a long period of time. And now, which are the members or institutions that make up the capital market? We have investment banks. They give out money for people to carry out investment. We have issuing house, right? Those who are issuing shares. They want to issue shares for your company. You can use the issuing house to issue shares. They can get investors for you. So that's another member of the capital market. We have the stock exchange market. That's another thing we're going to be looking at. We'll look at it individually. When we buy and sell securities of a company, we buy them at the stock exchange market. And then we have the merchant bank. And then apart from those main bodies that make up the capital market, we also have things like building society, right? They give out loans for people can use in building. So now when they have surplus, they can invest it in the capital market. I think even saving banks too. Saving banks, insurance companies, right? When they have surpluses, they can invest them in the in the capital market. Now, what are the instruments we have in the capital market? So we have issuing of shares, bank loans, that's long-term loans. We have municipal bonds. We have mortgages. We have government bonds. We have now the issue of debenture. So these are the instruments that we find in the money and in the capital market. So with that, we have put one end with our lesson. And remember, please like, comment, and share. And remember, stay tuned for our next lesson. And our next lesson, we are going to be looking at one aspect of the financial market, which is the stock exchange market. So see you next class.